I think the people that I get to work with day in, day out, the culture from the top down. We're a God-fearing, God-honoring company. He has blessed us, and to work in a place like that day in, day out is truly, I think, an exception in our country. That I wish we had more places like that.
Call the meeting to order and pass it to the city manager to do the appointments. Thank you, Mayor. We'll start with the consideration of the minutes from last week. Comments?
I work on it.
Perfect. Thank you. Item number 2, ordinance 7391, second and final over the Western Plateau area, changing from R1 and Planned Development District to Amended Planned Development District, and this is for the St. Stephen's Church. Kelly, any changes, comments? Commission, any questions? Item number 3, resolution calling a public hearing. This is the setting the date. So we're not actually considering the structure, we're providing the required 10-day notice and setting the date at which time you will consider that structure. Item number 4. I'm sorry, question?
Both these resolutions call for action.
They do. Item number 4, the resolution calling the regular municipal election for May 11th, 2013. Such election for the offices of mayor and the 4 places for commissioner.
Mayor/king.
Moving on to item 5, resolution of state sales tax funding application. I think by now y'all are very familiar with this opportunity. We've used it successfully for several programs where the state provides back a portion of their sales tax from events that are held here that then can be used to enhance those events and others that we might attract. This one is for the WRCA event. And we have a representative coming here at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, Randy Whipple will be here at 3.
At 3,
Answer any
from the WRCA board?
Yes.
Thankfully, that's now a pretty standard resolution. Dean and the group have been very successful in getting this. This same funding has supported the Adequan and other events as well. Item number 6, appointments, boards, and commission.
Well, one thing I don't know, this would be, I guess, the doctors. This is a refund of part of their, the state's portion of the sales tax,
right.
not any of the cities, right?
Correct.
And there's also some hotel tax and liquor tax rebated also.
Right.
You want me to add that?
Well, I just think it's a fair statement to make.
Yeah, it doesn't affect the city at all.
If you want, I mean, you can read, you can, of course, we'll read it first. You can make a comment right after we, for a second.
Sales tax, liquor tax. What else?
Hotel
occupancy.
Or you can make that comment too.
Sure.
Okay,
Give you a chance to shine a little bit.
I need that. Am I allowed to go with no tile?
It's, whether outside of
Question.
I have a spare hanging.
I have several for sure.
You do.
what if they're all surprises?
Item number 6, appointments for boards and commissions. This is your Bi-City County Public Health Board. As you can see, Mr. Hawkins has served in that position for quite some time. The board has asked that he be considered for reappointment, and he is willing and eligible to do so at your approval. consent agenda. Consent item A, purchase of our heavy trucks and trailers for the year. As you can see, there's a large number of them, 39 different pieces, totaling about $3.24 million.
Would you give an explanation so people understand? We had some criticism in the paper by an editorial that said we weren't giving things to local. And the fact is, if locals don't bid, we got no choice. That is normally what happens. Can you explain that a little further?
Mayor, that does happen, and where you'll commonly see it these days, unfortunately, is when we buy the regular, pickups and automobiles. There are dealerships now downstate that pretty much all they do is fleet sales. If you were ever to find their lots, they're covered with plain vanilla cars, trucks. In the case of one dealer, they're all black and white police cars that they sell. Even in that case, we solicit local bids and just frequently do not get them. It's very difficult for our dealers up here who are running what we think of as a common dealership to be able to secure enough of those fleet vehicles at a low enough cost to come in on it. In the case of this bid, those are all local except for Caldwell Country Ford, which is the next to smallest piece of that award. And usually when we buy heavy equipment and heavy trucks, you will see more of the locals. Another thing that happens now, that actually I think is a very good thing, you're all familiar with the buy board or the HGAC cooperative purchase. In those cases, you're in effect getting a manufacturer's bid, but then that equipment or those vehicles still have to be processed and delivered through a local dealer. So when we buy what's commonly called the yellow iron, you'll often see that it came to us off of a buy board through a local vendor who gets a piece of that. I wouldn't know what their piece is, but they also get all of the parts and the warranty, and if we're buying a maintenance agreement, they get that as well.
Yeah, but that buy board is populated by people that won that bid with the state. So the original dealer gets a cut of that, and then he does a courtesy delivery through a local dealer. And then a local dealer obviously would pick up the warranty work in that because it hits that local level. They're not going to take it back to Houston.
Exactly.
But they're actually, they submit that to the state and are accepted as the winner of the buy board. And for that next period of time, they supply any car that comes under that heading, whatever it is.
Correct.
But it's not that we don't, it's that local people may not submit or may not submit for the buy board. That's a real unusual thing to submit for that.
Yeah, and even in the case of the buy board, we don't just pick a category and continually buy them off of those co-op purchases.
Sure.
We'll stop and rebid. And did we attract, a local bid? And was the local bid competitive? If not, you're kind of back going down that process.
Our experience was the city was very fair about offering it to locals, trying to work that out. So I think it's important we all understand the locals have an absolute shot at this. It's their choice whether they accept it or not.
And isn't there some profit also in the service contract, so the locals are getting a good deal in business there?
It's really, you can't believe how little, but it does help them with their fleet numbers with the manufacturer. You would not believe it if you knew how much the dealer really made on these, like $25 a sale. Net.
And then you see a follow-up comment in the paper after that letter where somebody wrote in and said, can't you just imagine how the voters would react if we paid more than what
Would you be?
Was that your comment?
No, that was somebody's in the paper. They were like, yeah, you're going to scream on one side or you're going to scream on the other.
Well, the system takes care of it,
Yeah.
but I want everybody to understand, the system
What the
does
real
take care of
process
it.
is.
And there is a good process, and it does, I think, favor local people. It's very hard for an outside dealer to pay for a courtesy delivery and compete with a local dealer. That's how we used to win the bids. But they've got to submit. If they won't submit, the locals don't get it.
The Commissioner makes a good point. State law does, allow what's called local preference. You adopt it, we've actually evaluated it twice in the period of time, that I've been here. And what that puts you in a position of doing is saying, if local A is not more than 105% of out-of-town number A, or letter A, we'll pay an extra 5% and take it from that way. That always raises the question, then, are you spending the taxpayer money in the best manner possible. Some places that have done it, you know, have reported that you can get into a little gamesmanship. What's a local business? Is it a storefront, a P.O. box, a large equipment yard? I mean, and in the two times I recall this commission, prior commissions looking at it, you know, that's what we've noticed. It's just not, at least at this time, been determined to be the most effective and efficient way to use that money. There are some bills now in the legislature to mandate preference. I mean, they've been filed before. I don't know that, you know, they'll have a lot of success, but they're out there, and they're at the state level. And I think they're kind of trying to build off what happened with the ARA money, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, because it had the Buy American clauses in it. And so now we're seeing one out there that's a Buy Texan clause. Good points, all. Item B, joint elections agreement. As y'all know, there was a change at Randall County in how they're handling the joint elections for us. We'll now contract with what's called the election administrator. As far as our voters and the public, this should be entirely transparent. It's really pretty much a similar contract to what we've always done. It'll just be with a different name. As you can see, not only the school, or not only the city, but the school district, the junior college, and likely others will join as well. Our final cost is determined as that breaks down between the entities after the voting is set up. I want to say the 11 election was right at 29.7 for us.
Our fair share.
Our share, 29,700, I believe. Regular elections are less expensive to conduct than special elections are. Item number C. Approval of the 2013 Working Ranch Cowboys Association Sport Agreement. This goes back to the item earlier, to where we were approving the resolution to try to take those state funds and bring them back here. Comments, questions?
No.
Okay, Mayor, if we could, I'd like to ask Chief Taylor to come up. We're in the third year of the 3-year life of your existing team curfew ordinance. Do have copies of your existing ordinance here for anybody that would like to have such. And then the chief has made a short kind of summary. As you do these, the state does require that they be re-examined. The state does require that these be re-examined every 3 years. What we're going to do today is really just kind of a preliminary briefing on that. If the commission is interested in considering the ordinance to be renewed, then we'll begin a process next week of, in the regular meeting, holding the public hearings, taking the comment, and considering the ordinance, and you'll do that twice, of course, first and second readings. So, Chief's going to kind of give you a preview today, and if we proceed, we'll do it all again next week too.
All right.
Chief?
Okay, over last year we had about a 30% increase in actual tickets issued, arrests made on curfew violations over the previous year, and about a 13–14% increase in cases over the previous year. Overall, I think it's still a good idea to continue on with the ordinance. You know, as many kids as there are in Amarillo, this is really not that many cases, so I think we have good compliance right now. And when we started early on in this process, there was a lot of kids out on the street late at night. I'm talking groups, large groups of kids, and I think this is going to slow that down.
There wasn't much you could do when you saw that, was
No.
there?
You know, unless there were some, you know, really young kids out there where you might be able to get on parents for some kind of, you know, neglect, but for the most part, no. Unless they're getting into trouble, there's not a whole lot you can do. And with this ordinance, we can, well, fortunately, most of them are now staying home. If they don't, then we can make them go home and put them in the new center.
It's a great tool to have, especially when you start working on those hot spots with our directed patrol units like we talked about last week.
good tool for parents to have to convince, children that aren't just way out there. They'll easily convince to keep them at home. Some of them, that are not ever in the fence, those are the ones that get arrested.
Do we know why the dip the prior year?
No, it just hard to say. Of course, we have obviously, picked up on our directed patrol a lot in several different areas, so that could be a reason for pickup in it maybe. But we didn't find anything that was really standing out that caused a wreck. Just more activity.
But this cuts down on auto burglaries.
Yeah, it certainly helps. We did have a very good drop in our larceny theft last year, and no doubt this is a good tool to help cut down on those.
Is this something you would like to see us begin the process to renew?
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
I was looking at, maybe I didn't see it real quick, it's midnight, or what time is it?
What's the curfew?
It's midnight.
Yeah.
You'll see that.
16
Or 16.
17, you're okay.
Nothing good happens after that.
Nothing good happens after 9.
The AM or PM, Jim?
Both. Before 9 a.m. or after.
Mayor, this is the renewal ordinance. I handed out the wrong one. I need to go back to the original one to give you those dates.
Grab that if you want.
Would you please?
Okay.
This is the one that was used 3 years ago to continue the original one.
But we know it's midnight.
It is midnight.
Right.
There's exceptions.
Yeah.
Example number 2 here talks about a couple of 16-year-olds doing a beer run. I did that half marathon a couple of times myself.
You did a beer run?
Had to train for that one, did you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, this coincides obviously with when parks, are closed and everything else. So seems to have worked.
And if they're working, they can get out later.
Yeah.
Working, school functions, there's good reason.
They have to get a permit ahead to do that or something, don't they? Or they just
the officer.
just explain to them. What's nice here, I think in most cases, unless there was something really egregious, they release them to parents.
Yeah.
Probably do what.
Most of the time, if we can get parents to come and get them, that's what generally happens.
Yeah.
If there's some of the crime involved along with this, depending on what it is, they can go in and send.
Sure.
Sometimes they end up in teen court.
Yes.
I know that personally.
Do you appear before the teen court?
No, somebody I know very well.
Yeah, that usually makes them believers too, though. If they have to serve on team court as part of their settlement.
What are you in for?
Teen court is good deterrence. It's swift and certain.
They become a little tougher on their peers when they do that.
Yeah, because then they got to serve as a juror.
Yeah.
Well, that's the partnership with the junior league that has been tremendous.
Very good, yeah.
Tremendous. Well, with your permission, we'll make the required notices in the paper and set up for hearing and first consideration for next week. Next week being Wednesday. Next week being Wednesday.
Don't forget the 17th of our meeting today.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've only forgotten 3 or 4 times at least.
I know, me too.
20th.
The 20th, correct.
See what appointments I made.
A couple of just kind of quick comments. We continue to work with Ms. Matthews, the Impact Futures group. We're floating a draft resolution between the city and she and the to see if we can encourage not only the state but also the federal government to continue to try to address the synthetic marijuana issue in a more comprehensive, manner. I do believe her and her group have been to Washington recently. I mean, they're working hard trying to get something done. So we're trying to support that, and if we're able to get that to where it's ready, well, we could possibly have that for next Wednesday to consider. As well as we've been asked to look at a resolution for the payday lending issues that I think you'll have all heard about. So.
I have got a nice article on the designer drug cannabis and substitutes. It talks about how difficult it is, it's from the National Institutes of Health, how difficult it is to track those and the chemical operations thereof, how you legislate those and how you can't. It's just, it kind of brings it into perspective just how difficult it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you a copy, a copy.
Good. Do that and I'll get it out to
The print's
everybody
kind of
else.
small.
Then get it back to Ms. Matthews too, maybe give them some names.
I was a little discouraged. I knew it was complicated after I read that article. It was like, oh, geez.
No way.
Which I think maybe the council there is, instead of trying to keep chasing that rabbit we've been chasing of prescribing in the law certain chemical formulas that are outlawed, instead shift the focus on a civil cause of action, a personal injury lawsuit if someone's hurt by it, and a packaging, pure food labeling kind of approach. Doesn't matter what chemical it is, you gotta have it properly labeled what it is, what it does. I think that may be a different rabbit trail that may be more fruitful than continuing trying to prescribe detailed formulas.
Has there been anybody who's taken that approach yet, or is that a new idea?
Actually, of all places, Levelland, Texas, Jared and I had discussed that idea, and lo and behold, Levelland last week passed an ordinance that kind of...
They started, they're still on two paths.
Yeah,
They started.
they're riding two horses, but one of them is the branding, labeling, packaging idea.
And the district attorney's looking at that right now, and there may be some criminal cause to go after them under that.
47
decision
district
yet
attorney?
For the labeling thing. So we'll see. I don't know what their decision is going to be as to whether we can take criminal action against them. If we can, then we'll go after them. But no decision yet.
And everybody knows it's an issue, but just as Marcus has said, the doctor has talked about what they went through back in the 90s with the ecstasy stuff, trying to...
What did they do with ecstasy finally?
It's, you know,
They finally just wrapped it up, but what happened, the market moved into other
They went to these instead.
other things to do.
Here's the actual
The base ordinance.
base ordinance, that's right.
This will have your actual claims, including your exemptions.
I heard them say that there were a lot more of these institutions that disseminated this in one county versus the other. Is there any truth to that?
I don't know.
It sounded like it was pervasive in one county and almost nil in another county. I mean, that's what they were telling me. I don't want to comment because I don't know for sure which it was. Big question.
Okay, Mayor, Commission, any questions on today's agenda? Thoughts about next week? Again, we'll bring the ordinance up for its renewal. Possibly have those resolutions before you. Keep moving.
Sounds good.
Great. Mayor, if we could,
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks,
let's
Chief.
take care of the agenda for today. We could ask for a closed session, kind of get caught up on some stuff we didn't get to last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, the mayor